Welcome to part 2. Now, we need to try and see, gaze into the crystal ball and see if we can predict what is going to happen in the future, considering the current situation in our politics. Of course, the current situation is that NASA have a very well laid plan, yes, and this plan is attacking on all fronts, as we saw in the first part of this series, okay. And most of the things they're doing are extremely effective, okay. Legal stuff, yeah, they're doing it through the county assemblies. That is all legal. There's no way going to pin down somebody who's doing something within the constitution. Very difficult, in fact virtually impossible, okay. Economic boycott, we have already covered that. That will bring a lot of people down to their knees. It will change the way our economy is, etc., etc. Now, when you group all these things together, it is quite a lot of pressure. Now, what happens to a person if you put them under a lot of pressure? Yeah, or school fees has not been paid, or the wife is stressing him, or at work the boss is on his case, or the landlord is messing him up, has not repaired something, but is still pushing him for rent, or the landlord in the office wants to auction his property. All that stress at the same time. What happens to a normal, an individual, a human being? They crack, they give way, the pressure just becomes too much, yes, and they'll either end up in hospital, yeah, with some very serious ailment. They could even have a heart attack, yeah, or a stroke, yeah. The bottom line is that pressure nyingi si mzuri for an ordinary person. And it's the same with the government. A lot of pressure on a government is not a good thing. Of course, what I mean is that it's not a good thing for that government which is being put under so much pressure. So how do governments usually react under pressure? The answer is very simple. They do crazy things. Now, we have been hearing about all kinds of things that are being planned at the highest level of the Jubilee government, yes, and some of them have sounded far-fetched, okay. Now, I'm here to tell you today, nothing amongst what you've heard, yeah, can be far-fetched, yeah. That is no longer true. It cannot be far-fetched. Why? Because I've just explained to you, when somebody is under pressure, crazy things happen to them. And when a government is under pressure, the government tends to do very crazy things. Now, in the old days, the biggest fear for a government and the leader of that government was that the government was going to be overthrown and they would end up losing their lives and the lives of their precious family in front of a firing squad or something like that, yeah. And this happened many times, yeah. If we look at countries, Nigeria, Liberia, etc., etc., even a lot of South American countries, that's exactly what happened. Now, that has changed, yeah. Although I dare say in a lot of African countries that is still a possibility, okay. But the new nightmare, yes, is more focused on losing power, yeah. And usually, and this is very important, and usually the people surrounding the leader of that government, the president or the prime minister, the leader of that government, the people surrounding that person are usually the most paranoid about losing power, yeah. And therefore they're usually the most dangerous when it comes to reacting in very crazy ways in order to hang on to power. And so I'm afraid as Kenyans, we have to brace ourselves for some very, very crazy times, unfortunately, yeah. But the good news is that this is a dark day, yeah. It's a long night, yes, but it will pass. It will have to pass, because nothing lasts forever, yeah. I always encourage myself a lot when I go through any crisis with 4 very important words, yeah, that will always lift you up if you are able to understand and appreciate their true meaning, yeah. Those 4 words are, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. Hata iwe mbaya namna gani, this too shall pass. Yes, one day in the future, we don't know when, but one day in the future we'll wake up to a bright new morning. This crisis will be over, yeah. Kenyans will be basking in the sunshine of a brand new day, yeah. Kutakuwa kumekucha kabisa. But until then, we have to be extremely careful. All of us have to be extremely careful. Now, I know there are a lot of people who support the current government, Jubilee people, who may be listening to this and saying, that's not for me. Or, I'm here to tell you, actually, it's for you. Because when crazy things happen, yeah, there is no demarcation. Yeah, there's no division of saying, oh, these are the people supporting the government and these are the people not supporting the government. No way. The truth is, casualties will be from both sides of the political divide. Okay? Now, I can hear some of you listening to this recording saying, what pressure? What is Chris talking about? Yeah, pressure that can make a government do crazy things. What pressure? I don't see any pressure. Okay, let me make it clear. Or rather, let me clarify. Yeah? Economic boycott, I think, is very obvious. That's why I want to start with it. Okay? What happens is that if companies start closing down, yeah, that becomes a great concern. That's pressure. Okay, these companies are already taxpayers, yeah, and remember they're taxpayers on a daily basis, yeah, because there's a tax called VAT, value-added tax, yeah. Every time the cash register rings, the government gets money. Okay, now when the cash register starts ringing less, yeah, the government does not receive that revenue, and when the government does not receive that revenue, the people at the treasury, the government, the people doing the accounts suddenly run into problems. Yeah, because it's all cash flow. You know, you're expecting some certain cash so that this is financed. You know, you've done all the sums, but at the end of the day, you're juggling around the cash. Yeah, cash received from here to taeka hapa. Now, when that cash from that source fails to come in, you're already in a mess. So that's pressure. So we expect there'll be some considerable financial pressure on the government. Remember also the fact that Kenyans have been on a permanent campaign mode since the beginning of the year, literally, yeah. So that has taken its toll on businesses, that has taken its toll on tax collection, etc., etc. The gathering momentum on secession is also going to be another source of pressure, yeah, because remember these countries, these counties, these parts of the country which have called for secession, who want to secede from Kenya, will be very, very difficult to govern going forward. Yeah, because already you have prepared your masses, because these people have made these calls public. Yeah, I'm talking about Coast and Nyanza. Yeah, therefore people on the ground will not be cooperating with the current government. Yeah, they'll just be difficult. Okay, and some of them will already, will already be ahead of everybody else. They'll already see themselves as seceded. Yeah, therefore they'll start acting accordingly. All that is pressure towards the government. And of course, the biggest source of pressure will be the fact that the pillars that have held the current Jubilee government up there, yeah, they've held the current Jubilee government in place, have all come crashing down. Yeah, chief amongst these pillars is something called the tyranny of numbers. Okay, the belief, even with the public, with so many people, even with me at a certain time, yeah, was that the Jubilee government is in power because a certain tribe has got very many people. These people voted, these people got genuine votes. Therefore, fairly and by the standards of democracy, they deserve to be in power because they have the numbers. Yeah. Now, when that thing is overturned suddenly, and you realize that actually these people don't have the numbers, and to make it worse, it becomes very clear during the economic boycott, in that if indeed they had the numbers, the economic boycott would not really have an impact, because the majority of the people are supporting the government. But when it becomes very clear that the economic boycott is across 3/4 of the country, yeah, it means that 3/4 of the country does not support the government in power. Oh, that becomes very serious pressure on the government. Now, when you put all these things together, you realize that as a country, we have come to a very, very dark part of the night. Yeah, a very dangerous part of the night, a very unpredictable part of the night. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.